ask?
Every day. Every
Every
day. You
every
got to
day.
know that when I hit go, you got to, shh.
I can't see when you hit the button. You say
I
something
tell
to me.
you, okay, I'm hitting it. What do you mean? All right, well, welcome everybody to Everyday Ethics. We are very glad to have you here. We're here for another great discussion. Persephone says she has a good question, but I've actually got a question for you, the audience. I would like to know, what is a topic that you would like for us to discuss? Is there something of interest that we haven't gotten into yet? Maybe something you're just dying to hear us talk about? Please let us know, and we, of course, will give it some consideration. I can't promise because I don't yet know what it is, but you'll see. So, I forgot what the hell I was just going to say. I hate when this happens. It happens to me more frequently than I would like it to. But it seems to me, Persephone, when we're talking about ethics, right?
Yes.
The ethics that we're talking about is not a list of commandments, and it's not, something that's in a book that's just going to tell you do this. It's not something that just comes to you, by osmosis. We're talking about rational ethics that requires thought, and often critical thought. And Mark and I were discussing earlier today that when it comes to politics or it comes to information gathering, there seems to be a dearth of critical thought. And so I would like to maybe just get into a little bit about the importance of that when we're dealing with ethics, especially because you don't want to just accept the first thought or the first emotion that comes, into your mind. You need to be able to critically analyze things before you act. What are your thoughts on this, Persephone? And do you have any questions for me pertaining to this subject in addition to the question that you brought for us today?
Um, do I have any questions? No. I feel like a lot of people live their life on autopilot.
Yeah, and by the way, there's nothing. Automaticity is a good thing.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is once you've gained the requisite knowledge, it's good to be able to not focus and think about it. I mean, look how you tie your shoes, right? I just leave them tied, but when they come untied, I have to retie them. But if every time I had to relearn it or had to think about every step, I'd go crazy. Same thing. You're getting dressed, you're brushing your teeth, you're taking a shower, you're starting the automobile. You know what lane you have to drive in when you're in your car. It's good to have that type of stuff automatized.
Yes, but only if you already know. Um,
You freeze whatever you're doing and you're trying to talk, you
sorry.
freeze. Yeah, if
So
you already know, right? I think that's what you were going to
only if
say.
you've yes, only if you've put some effort into only if you put some effort into actually creating a concrete understanding of your ethics and your values, which I'm
Yes.
most people haven't done.
Well,
Most
that's my
people
point. That's
most
that's what I'm getting
people
at.
absorb through osmosis and never think further than that.
Right. So when I just wanted to give the qualifier that we're not preaching against automaticity, against
No.
things becoming, because that's very healthy and helpful that you
Yes.
don't have to rethink everything. The problem is when you think you automatically know stuff that you don't. And this is why critical thinking is relevant, so that you can differentiate those situations, so you can analyze a given situation, analyze your emotions, analyze your thinking, and apply them to the situation at hand. Very, very important. Mr. Deagle wants us to talk about romantic and sexual relationships.
Which I do think is a good idea, and it is something that we've
All
spoken
right, let's
about
go. Go
before.
ahead.
Wait,
Well, let's apply critical thinking to romantic and sexual relationships.
oh
Can you do
no.
it on the fly, or do you need to prepare ahead of time?
No, I need to prepare ahead of time.
All right.
Mr. Deagle will do it tomorrow. We'll make that our Friday special. Tomorrow is Friday, right?
Yes, tomorrow is Friday. Okay, so what was the back to the original? What was the question that you had for me?
Okay. So, what do you think about burnout in a professional sense?
Um, I think it's
Do you need?
very real.
Okay.
I think that and this gets back to the critical thinking, knowing yourself, knowing your body, knowing your limitations. Not using the possibility of burnout as an excuse to not get things done, but also not pushing yourself over the limit so that you actually can't get anything done. I was just thinking right before we came on the air, actually, that my work, what I do, there's a time crunch that gives me stress. It gives me anxiety every day. But it's not so much that I can't get things done. So I absolutely have to have Mark and you the articles in a timely fashion so that you guys can read them before the show at noon. And plus, I don't know what else you guys have got going on. So I try to get those to you as early as possible. So that's for the 12 o'clock show. So, and then I've also got my day job that I have to do, and that comes sometimes I won't get anything for hours, and then all of a sudden I'll get 5 different properties for which I have to do reports. During the day, I also I like to do my cleaning, my working out, and my shower all before noon, right? So with that and the reports and the job, I'm very crunched before 12 o'clock. Then, if I've got a show like today, I just did an interview with Andy Bernstein. So that was another show, and then this one. So I'm very compressed. That can be stressful, right? I don't think I could maintain the level today because I also had to take my car to the shop this morning. I couldn't maintain this level of time crunch every day. I would get burned out, but I'm aware of it. I can handle it once in a while, but I couldn't do it all the time. So I don't schedule interviews for every day at 1 p.m. I do it once in a while and I can handle it. And that's, I think, a very important lesson for people is to know what you can and can't handle and recognize the signs when you're starting to get burnt.
My my friend and I, who are the same age,
Is she hot?
I mean, I think she's beautiful.
Okay.
So my friend and I were discussing the other day. She has a teenage uh, sister, but the who is living with her. And so basically, for all intents and purposes, a teenage child, right? And we talk often about sort of the lack of motivation and the lack of ambition that a lot of teenagers and younger people seem to have, right? And even some of just the sort of younger adults, because this friend and I both come from backgrounds where our first jobs were basically sweatshop conditions, right? Um, my first job, the hours were insane, the pay was terrible, the bosses were inept, my team members were also inept, and it ended up in a situation where I was working on a team and we had 5 new managers in the time that I was there.
Okay.
And the the managers, I ended up having to train the managers because I was the one that had been there the longest. I wasn't a manager. I never got promoted, but I was, training these people. And so I ended up taking on sort of more responsibility because I'd been there longer. So sweatshop, proper sweatshop conditions. And because of that, I have, and she didn't work at the same place, but she worked in a very similar sort of situation, right? Where it was like you get to work at 6 a.m. and then you leave at maybe midnight, right? So this was our first, both of us, our first career, like jobs were insane. And it created in both of us this tendency to overwork ourselves to the point of like, what's happening, right? And that's when I feel most comfortable. I feel most comfortable about my life when I'm like drowning in work. And I don't think that that's a healthy way to be. But also, it's very productive.
But okay. So burnout is a very personal thing.
Yes.
If you're thriving in that, then you're not burning out.
No,
So why
but
wouldn't that be healthy?
just hold on. So no, I I I really enjoy my work, not just my day job, but I enjoy what I do for you and Mark as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is it adds a fair amount of work to my day. And for the most part, I'm fine and I enjoy it and it's really enjoyable. And then there'll be like a couple of days out of the month where I'm like, oh, I can't do anything. I'm actually going to die. And then I spend the entire day in bed.
Oh, well, that's not good. My back is
Right.
killing me, but right now my back is really hurting me badly. Um, so these are I just looked this up. Some signs of burnout. I think that's important, right? So they break it down into emotional, cognitive, physical, and behavioral. And emotional, if you're having chronic exhaustion and sleep doesn't fix it, cynicism and detachment from work you used to care about, feeling like nothing you do matters, irritability or short fuse with people around you. I get that.
Mm.
When I'm overburnt and I get irritable fast. Cognitive, difficulty concentrating or making decisions, forgetfulness and mental fog, dreading the start of each workday. Then for physical, they got frequent headaches, changes in sleep, loss of appetite. Uh, in behavioral, procrastinating, withdrawing from colleagues, reduced output, losing satisfaction. So the key distinction from ordinary stress usually feels like too much, while burnout feels like nothing left. Stress is temporary, burnout is depletion. So I think you should know these signs, pay attention to yourself, maybe get feedback from a friend, somebody you trust, and that's how you could know if this type of stuff has happened. But again, you have to apply critical thinking to things in life, to your decisions, especially the important ones. And you need to recognize your own bodily signs, what's happening with you. Very, very important.
Yeah.
You okay? Are you crying?
No, I have allergies.
Oh.
We're like at the tail end of summer, and so my allergies are going insane.
Have you
Um,
started reading Down the Rabbit Hole, by the way? Because we're supposed to be starting a new show. Speaking of burning out and putting a burden on your plate.
okay, so let me just explain something to you. At the moment, no, I haven't started reading the book, and I probably won't until next week.
Oh, my
I will
goodness
read it
gracious.
quickly. I
Oh,
will
Lord.
read it quickly, but I don't have the time right
Should
now.
we announce the new show? Is this a good
We
time to
should,
announce the
we
show?
should, we should
W-
talk about the new show.
Okay, we're going to talk about the new show for a minute. We can't talk about sex. So what do you give me that look for?
Well, we're going to talk about sex tomorrow, so it's not like
Yeah.
we can't.
Here's my concern with talking about sex. I'm afraid that all the women are going to find out that I'm going to be talking about sex, and we're just going to break the internet with women tuning in.
Flooding to the chat.
Yeah, I think that could be a very serious issue. You know, I don't mind women lusting over me, but I do have a girlfriend. But
Hi,
lust,
Nicole.
but lust over me, all you'd like. It's flattering. Okay. Anyways, enough with the lust. So Persephone and I are going to be doing a show that concerns criminal justice stuff. More importantly, prisons, how they're run, criminal rehabilitation, that sort of stuff. We're gonna cover various books. So the first book we're gonna cover is the book that I co-authored, Down the Rabbit Hole: How the Culture of Corrections Encourages Crime, and I am going to keep Miss Persephone very busy with books on this topic, and we're going to be discussing them every day. In addition to this, so we're going to really be overloading Persephone with things to do. The show will be on this channel, I believe, right, Persephone? Is that what we
Yes,
agreed
we'll
on?
be
It'll
on
be
this
on this
channel.
channel.
Yes.
So I hope everybody will tune in and enjoy it.
Yes. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be great. Um, my father was a criminal, and I sometimes wonder. My father taught me a lot of things, and if I think about some of the advice that my father gave me growing up, I wonder how much of that was informed by the fact that he was a deeply fucked up man.
I'm curious, when you say your father was a criminal, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, he went to jail for stealing a car. He never paid taxes a day in his life.
Well, that doesn't make
He,
someone a criminal. I mean, the
no,
criminals are
it
the
doesn't
ones
make someone
taking
a
the
criminal.
taxes.
Yeah, that's true. He was very aggressive. I don't want to say
Ah,
he was a. I don't want to say he was aggressive, but he was. So, he was a big dude, and he was fairly aggressive, and he would get into fights well into his, like, 50s.
okay, this is a
And he
criminal.
was he was just he was a very unethical dude,
All right,
right? And a
he
lot of
meets
the
the criteria.
yeah, and so there was a lot of advice that he gave me growing up that a lot of it which I internalized. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, how much criminal thinking did you teach me? And I don't want anybody to misunderstand. My dad was a great guy. He was a great father. He was just he was a very unethical dude.
Then he
Um,
wasn't a great guy. I'm sorry, you can't put those two together. People do that frequently. Like people will say,
yeah.
not just you, but I used to run into this a lot more in prison. People would introduce somebody or tell me about something, saying, he's a good dude, but, and the but is, no, he's not, because that's not a good dude.
Do you know why I say he was do you know why I say, like, yes, it's also difficult for me because he's my father,
Of
right?
course, that's all understandable. But
Yeah.
but for the sake of your own mental clarity in this show, I loved both my parents. They were not good people. That's all there is to it. And I can't. There were good things about them,
Do you know
certainly.
do you know why it's difficult for me, specifically as it relates to my father? Do you know why it's difficult for me to look at him and go, he wasn't a good dude? Because I feel like, yes, he had some unethical behaviors, but for the most part, he was a good and decent dude. He wasn't 100% virtuous, but for the most part, he was a better person than a lot of people I know.
Okay,
Does that
so
make sense? I mean,
I
I can
think
understand how it's still wrong,
no. What
but
I think
still.
is I think you're conflating likable with good person.
Mhm.
Like my father was likable very much. My friends absolutely loved my father when they would come over because he was like one of us, but
Nope.
wasn't a good person.
Nope. My
If
father
I'm
wasn't.
sorry, well, I'm sorry. If you can't on one hand, Persephone, tell me that your father's an unethical, aggressive person, and then say, but he's a good guy. The two just there's a dissonance there.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I'm not conflating likable, because I guess he was likable, but you know, he had more good behaviors than bad ones.
Okay, but
Maybe I'm just defensive. I don't know.
defensive, you mean?
That's what I said.
You said offensive.
I said defensive
I think
because
it
I'm
was
South African.
uh.
No, I said defensive, and
So let me tell you some
sounds
things.
like offensive.
Let me just
Yes.
tell you. Should I get into this now? I don't even know, but what the hell? So my father, from a very young age, taught me to be violent. That's what I looked for to gain respect from him. Uh, the first time I ever fired a gun at somebody, and this, maybe sounds crazy to people, I'm sure it does, but I came home and I told my father. I woke him up to tell him. He said, "Oh, all right." He rolled over and went back to sleep. So your son comes home and tells you that he may have shot somebody, and your response is to roll over and go to bed. So not a good father, right? I mean, it's just that's all there is to it, and there's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to change that. Now, I loved my father. He was good in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, he was. But ultimately, when it comes right down to it, if I'm giving an ethical assessment of him, my father was not a productive person. He never held a job a day in his life. He wasn't there for me when I needed him the most growing up. And he gave me horrible advice and horrible examples, right? That doesn't mean I can't, like, Subby loved my dad. Multiple of my friends loved him. It was fun, but he still was what he was.
Mm. My father was extremely productive and instilled in me probably what made me such a productive person. And he was also a great father. He was always there for me when I needed him.
So who was he
He
aggressive to?
cunts. Um he was if hmm.
Something's
So
wrong, Persephone. So either your claim that he was an unethical criminal is wrong, or your claim that he's a good person are wrong. Something's wrong.
something's wrong. Who is he aggressive with? He was aggressive with people who treated him in a way that he found disrespectful. He was aggressive with people who he thought were uh, slighting him and or cheating him, even if they weren't. Um,
Okay, so
he,
a penchant to misunderstand and then be aggressive to those that he's misunderstanding.
yes,
Okay.
um,
I don't want to
unethical.
tear your dad down. Like, this is not like when I came up with the idea for this show, like, it was not in my mind. Let's get Persephone to open up about her dad and then rip him apart. Like, that's not the point.
Do you want to
But
know? Can I tell you what's really funny about this? Just the fact that we're discussing my father.
yeah, go ahead.
So my father died 10 years ago, and I was going through my emails, and I found a bunch of voice notes from my father,
Okay.
right? And I listened to one of them, and I realized I didn't recognize his voice, and I burst into tears, and I was like,
Oh,
ah,
sorry.
what? No, it's fine. Like I told my mom this as well and my sister, and they were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "No, no, I'm the kind of person who experiences an emotion and then deals with it and moves on. Like if I start crying, I'm not gonna, I don't ever let like I don't ever shove my emotions down and
Mm-hmm.
just ignore them,
Well, that's good.
which is a tendency that my mother and my sister both have, is to just pretend the feelings aren't happening. Um, so it's just really funny that we're talking about my father because again, like yesterday, I listened to this voice note and I realized I didn't recognize his voice at all, and it was a really weird experience. Um, yeah, I don't know. My father taught me to lie and to cheat and to manipulate.
Yeah, so here's the problem I'm having, right? So
Hmm.
when I invite people onto the rational egoist,
Yeah.
I unless I tell them ahead of time that I'm going to be confrontational and disagreeable, I generally don't do that. Unless it's a lot and I just can't let it go. So, on a show like this, where we're talking about critical thinking and we're talking about ethical behavior, and you make a statement about your dad being a good guy who's an unethical criminal, I simply
Mm.
can't just let that go, right? Like, I don't want to beat up on your poor deceased dad. I don't want to make you feel bad, but I can't let it go, especially like when you just say what you're just saying. I think it sounds to me like what you're saying is that you love your dad and there were people that liked him. That doesn't make him a good guy though.
No, I mean, like, I guess I can agree with you. The thing is, he was unethical and he taught me a bunch of unethical things, but he always looked after me and he always looked after my mother and my sister and my brother who were not his biological children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he was a great father to them, and therefore, you know what I mean?
He had
Like,
good qualities. There's some good qualities.
Yeah, but also I can accept that when I'm going to say he was a good guy because he was my father and I
Oh
loved
my
him, but I
God,
but
for
I but I understand
FFS.
I understand that that's not true.
But then why do that? Why play that game with yourself? Why can't you make look? Why can't you acknowledge? Okay, he was my father. I loved him. He had good qualities, but if I'm judging somebody's character, I would not say he's somebody of good character.
You're right. Why can't I?
That's key because it's for your own intellectual integrity and clarity of your thinking and not having the sort of emotional blocks that stop you from saying that. Uh, it's not going to hurt him in any way, right? For
Oh, he
you
wouldn't. He wouldn't
to
have.
say
He wouldn't
that.
have cared. He wouldn't have cared anyway. Um, but I mean, you make a good point. I don't want to. I don't want to. Even if, even if I can acknowledge you're right, I'm like, no thanks.
But why?
I don't
Why?
know.
Doesn't reality take precedence? Doesn't truth take
I'm
precedence?
sure. I'm sure it should. I'm
And
sure
you
it
don't
should.
care? Wow.
No, it's not that. It's not that I don't care. It's just it's very uncomfortable for me. It's like horribly uncomfortable for me to sit and go, oh well, he wasn't a good dude. I
Okay,
don't like
so
it.
here's what I would like for a homework assignment. You told
Mm.
us earlier. You said that you acknowledge your feelings and you process them, embrace them, that sort of thing. The discomfort that you're feeling, embrace it. Go towards it. Deal with it. Accept it.
Okay.
Can you do that?
I mean,
Like do the
yeah.
down like okay, why does this make me so uncomfortable?
I mean,
Why?
I know why it makes me
but
uncomfortable.
but it's not not just here, like because this is deep. Like this is emanating from deep within your psyche.
Yeah, it is emanating deep within my psyche. I loved my father. My father was good to me. Therefore, and because he's dead, and because I miss him, it's
Mm-hmm.
very difficult for me to say he wasn't a good dude. So I
Mm-hmm.
know logically what it is, and I get that. It's just it's uncomfortable for me. I'm sure that if I sit with it for like a couple of days, that I'll be fine with it. But right now, at this very precise moment, I'm very defensive. Like, and I acknowledge that I'm being defensive, but
Sure.
also put on the spot. Um, so I mean, yeah, I'm sure if I sit with it, I know why it's happening. It's just it's there, and it's not something that's gonna go away like that. Um,
Sit with
okay,
the discomfort, acknowledge it, and maybe we'll revisit it again at a later date.
okay.
No, we're
Okay.
not. Why'd you laugh at me?
I mean, it's really funny. We'll revisit whether or not your dad was a good person. I don't
No, no,
know.
no.
It's
I
just
don't care about that. I mean, I want to revisit your emotional reaction to it, and how
yeah,
you're feeling about it, and your defensiveness about it. All that. Whether your
yeah.
dad was a good person or not is not a very interesting topic to me. Your emotional response to it
Yeah,
is, and how you're
yeah.
dealing with it. That's interesting to me.
So Akira says you should say that you loved him, but don't say he was good, especially if you know he was. And we all love people who weren't necessarily good people. I started to respect my grandma a lot more after I took her down the pedestal. She was a human and taught me a lot of things. That was really funny. I know the show is going to end in like a minute, but
Is it? Go ahead.
my sister, I have a lot of talks with my sister, and we talk about my we talk about my parents, and um whenever she sort of puts my father or my mother up on a pedestal, right, and she starts describing them as these like paragons, I bring her back down to reality and I go, you realize that our parents let us roam the streets and didn't care where we were. And she was
With
like,
the baboons?
so one day it was like 11 o'clock at night. I was walking and a Rottweiler like jumped on me and
Did you
knocked
say
me.
Rottweiler?
Yeah, Rottweiler.
Oh, I thought you said Rottweiler.
I did say a Rottweiler because that's how we say it. Rottweiler, not Rottweiler. Anyway, so I was walking, it was like 11 o'clock at night, and this like Rottie comes out of nowhere and jumps on me and knocks me flat on my back. And I was like 11, right? Why I'm roaming the streets at 11 o'clock at night when I'm a child, don't ask. But so this dog is like on top of me, and I'm like having a panic attack because I'm a child and there's a huge dog on top of me, and his owner comes walking across and he's like, oh, he's fine. And I'm like, and again, 11 o'clock at night, I'm a child, and my sister's talking about how our parents were so good, and I'm like, they didn't know where we were half
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, I hate the deification of dead people.
Yeah, so it's funny that I can acknowledge to her. It's funny that I can acknowledge to her when she puts our parents up on a pedestal. I'm like, you realize that they weren't actually that great. I mean, they were. They looked after us. We all of us have gone on to be successful people. So in that respect, they made sure we were alive and that we were going to school and that, we weren't doing drugs. They did that badly, but they tried. Um, so I can acknowledge it to her, but then in my own mind, it's tough for me because I'm like, no, but he looked after me and
It's
therefore he
that's
was a good
understandable.
person. Yeah.
It's understandable. Okay, we're gonna wrap up because I do have other work to do today. We will be back tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, to talk about all the sex. So that's good. We will be here. I look forward to it. Thank you all for listening today. Thank you for the discussion. And thank you, Persephone, because you have been absolutely wonderful today and every day. So until tomorrow, everybody, please be ethical.